It's Matt here with Semper Fi. It's August 2022 and I just finished up my third annual on the airplane, so I thought I'd update the ownership cost over the last 3 years and where we sit right now with the old girl. Remember, she's born in 1946, so she's a bit long in the tooth, but if we take care of her, she should be around for a lot of years. I did a video earlier, a couple years ago, about my first annual. My first annual was about $1,100, was the basic fee for an annual, all the inspection, oil changes, wheel bearing packing and all that. Plus, I had to redo the headliner. So there was a little bit of a cost in redoing the headliner because my old headliner was falling apart. The current one I have still needs to be fixed again, but it's better than the one that was in the airplane when I got it. My second annual was basically $900. The airplane didn't need anything, just the basic inspection that's normal part of an annual process in an airplane like this. Now, this is year 3, and we just finished up with the annual, and this annual was basically about $2,900. It was the basic inspection, which is usually around $1,000 for the various oil changes, compression checks, pack the wheel bearings, look at the fabric, check the control surfaces, all the normal stuff that you do in an annual. That's usually around $1,000 of it. Then we had to deal with the propeller. I knew my propeller was kind of in bad shape. I was planning on taking it off this year and sending it in for an overhaul. Luckily, I'm only about 45 minutes from Plant City, Florida, which is where the Sessanich wood prop factory is, and they will overhaul props. These usually cost about $1,000. They'll strip the varnish down, they'll balance it, they'll make sure the holes are still within spec for the prop lug bolts, and then if it's all good, they'll rebalance it, they'll revarnish it, and they'll send it back to you. Well, I knew the varnish in my prop was basically gone, and it was going to need a pretty extensive overhaul, and I actually had some concerns that it might not even be salvageable. My last couple flights before I went in for annual in June, I looked at it and I thought, this prop's in bad shape. So last month, my mechanic comes and gets my airplane. He flies it down to his maintenance hangar, which is about 45 minutes away. And he calls me and says, Matt, I almost didn't fly this airplane down here. This prop is shot. There's no way it's going to be able to be salvaged. The bolt holes were enlarged. It had gotten wet. It had a few soft spots. There were a few places where the wood had chipped. It just wasn't worth salvaging. So that propeller is now going to get cleaned up and mounted on my wall in my office. So he had another propeller in his hangar that was a certified Sessanich prop off in Aranca. So rather than buy a new one, I bought his slightly used one, which he put on the airplane. And I came down this morning for my first flight since getting the airplane back, and all I can say is it's almost a completely different airplane for several reasons. First of all, we couldn't read the prop part number stamp on the old prop. It was too old. It was not the original prop, but it probably was put on sometime in the 60s when the airplane was restored. Approved props for this airplane generally run from around 38 to up to about 44 inches. That's the pitch. The higher the number, the more of a cruise prop that is. The airplane will develop slightly less RPM, but it will cruise a little faster, and you'll give up a little bit in climb speed. The lower the number, the more of a first gear oriented prop that is. The higher RPM the engine will turn up. You'll get a little better climb performance, and you'll lose a little bit at top end. Well, we couldn't tell the part number on the old prop, but we measured it, and it came out at probably around 38 inches. Which basically means that prop had no business being on this airplane. The airplane was way under propped. So the prop we have on it now is a 44-inch prop, which is at the upper end of a cruise-orientated prop. When the mechanic flew it back down here, he said I gained about 8 knots in cruise speed, which for an airplane like this is a huge gain. Well, it was kind of rainy here at the airport this morning, so I didn't get to go out and set up a nice cruise to see how fast it'll go. But I did notice that the vibration and the smoothness of this airplane is light years improved over what it was before. I think I never realized how out of balance the old prop was until I got a nice in-balance prop. The airplane is many multiples quieter and drastically smoother. Also, from just where my RPM settings were on downwind, I could tell that it's easily going to be 5, 6, 7 knots faster at almost any RPM setting than it was before. A brand new prop for this airplane runs between $2,500 and $3,000. We worked out a deal to where this used one cost me basically $1,800 for a prop with very low time on it. There were also a few small other things. The aileron covers on my wingtips are pretty much shot. We had to order new ones for those. That's not a big deal. That's where I came in at $2,900. So over 3 years, that's $1,000 plus $700 plus $2,900 That's my maintenance cost for this airplane over 3 years. Now, if you notice, I did have another video I did about the ignition upgrade. I kind of count that separately because I probably could have looked around and fixed those magnetos rather than do a $5,000 ignition upgrade. However, the airplane is much improved with the new magnetos. I am in a different hangar than my last video. This hangar here is $167 a month. I'm on a nice grass field. It's cheaper. I like being on a grass field. The disadvantage of the grass field where I am is I'm surrounded by farmers and they dig up dust. When you come down here, the plane's covered in dust. So you do have to work every couple of weeks at the very minimum of getting down here and cleaning the fabric, or else the airplane just gets filthy. So that is cheaper. The last main recurring cost is insurance. Insurance, my first year was $1,350. Last year it was $1,231. It actually went down. I'm going through a renewal right now, so in the next month I should hear what my new cost is. Kind of expect it to be about the same. I don't know why it's gone down a little bit. I'm getting a little more hours in a tail wheel, but I don't think I'm getting enough to make that a difference. So I'm not sure why it's going down, but I'm not going to complain. I'll put up a chart here so you can kind of see all these numbers put together. But again, that's for informational purposes. My airplane does need some more work. My wing fabric is getting old. My mechanic tells me he can give me about 2 more years of annuals before he really starts saying that the wings have to be recovered. I am into looking at that right now. There are some other minor things. I would like to recover my instrument panel, but that's what I'm into it now for 3 years. And when you come down here on a nice summer morning and it's 75 degrees and no humidity, you turn the prop and she kicks on the first blade and you go flying with the door open and you can smell the seaweed and the salt water, the orange groves. You don't think about how much it costs. So that's my experience. I'd like to hear your experience. If you have an airplane, feel free in the comments to talk to me about what it costs to maintain your classic fabric airplane. But otherwise, keep watching and hit like if you like the videos. Thanks a lot and keep flying.